CLASP was founded back in 1968 to create a more inclusive society that promotes equal opportunity. Since 1982, we focused specifically on strengthening low-income children and families and creating pathways to education and jobs. CLASP gives voice at all levels of government to the challenges of low-income people, driving policy change that fosters sustainable communities where children grow up safe, healthy, and prepared to succeed. That means ensuring young people and adults have the education, job training, and work supports necessary to rise above poverty. This isn't just the right thing to do for individuals. It creates a stronger economy and prosperity for all. CLASP is all about working to secure policies that strengthen families, create pathways to education and work, and promote opportunity. Through research, analysis, and advocacy, we develop and promote new ideas, mobilize partners, and help governments and advocates implement strategies that deliver results for low-income families. We cannot do this alone, though. Foundations, individuals, and businesses provide the resources we need to bring our expertise to bear in Washington, as well as states and communities nationwide. CLASP is a nonpartisan organization, but we've got a bias. It's what's best for low-income children and families. We enjoy strong relationships with members of both parties, and our expertise on the nuts and bolts of the political process allows us to advance practical, common-sense policies despite a contentious environment. CLASP also recognizes that poverty can only be reduced if we attack all its interconnected causes. That's why the scope of our work is so broad. We fight to give low-income children the best possible start. We work to provide families the temporary or long-term cash assistance needed to ensure stability at home. We help reconnect young people who aren't engaged in school or work, and we create pathways to good jobs that lift people out of poverty and promote balance in their work and family lives, driving economic growth and creating thriving communities. CLASP uses an advocacy model that integrates federal and state policy work and promotes community involvement. We work widely with other advocacy groups and provide technical assistance and data-driven information to those who make policy and implement programs, including Congress, federal and state agency staff, state legislators, program administrators, and community service providers. By working at the federal, state, and local levels, we become valued advisors, feeding information between these levels of government. This ensures we have the right relationships, both in government and communities, to create, implement, and evaluate sound policies that create pathways to opportunity for low-income people. At CLASP, our bottom line is whether the policies we influence make a difference in people's lives. We ask ourselves, have the policies achieved their goals? More often than not, the answer is yes. When Congress was debating a federal response to the financial crisis, we fought hard for $5 billion in emergency funding to address unemployment. Congress passed the measure, and as a result of our subsequent work helping states and communities leverage the funds effectively, 260,000 good-paying jobs were created for America's poorest families. Not only did we save families on the brink, we added hundreds of thousands of consumers to a struggling economy. Some people aren't fully aware of how comprehensive CLASP's work is. CLASP isn't just another inside the Beltway player giving recommendations and moving on to the next issue. We're there every step of the way. We identify the need for new policies and resources, help draft and pass responsive legislation, and then work with state officials and local providers to ensure individuals are actually benefiting on the ground. Another misconception is that CLASP does litigation. While that in fact was a focus in our early years, we've discovered we're most effective innovating policy and collaborating with governments and communities. But perhaps the most common misconception about us is the issue we address: poverty. Many Americans are so disheartened by increasing inequality that they think poverty is a problem without an answer. That's simply not true. We know what works. We have proven solutions that expand access to education, job training, and work supports. We just need to fund and implement them. CLASP has created policy change across a range of vital issues. We led passage of the Fostering Connections Act, which helped thousands of foster children find permanent, loving homes, while extending aid to young people aging out of the system. We also protected thousands of jobs through the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act, which includes a creative public-private approach to saving jobs by allowing companies to reduce an employee's hours and use unemployment benefits to fill the gap in wages. This strategy prevented layoffs for low-income Americans without reducing pay or burdening cash-strapped employers. Because poverty is so deeply entrenched, the scope of our work is massive. It's made even more challenging by our political process full of special interests and bureaucratic obstacles, and by public misperception that poverty can't be solved. These are major roadblocks, and low-income families can't peddle influence to get what they need. They rely on CLASP to bring the debate into focus and secure policy solutions that improve people's lives and drive economic growth. CLASP has great ideas, and we need more resources to reach an even broader audience. Because we're a recognized leader on the issues facing low-income children and families, government officials and community groups seek out our expertise. And to ensure we know what's happening on the ground and inform others of resources and policy changes, CLASP conducts affirmative outreach in communities. However, resource limitations prevent us from being as proactive and nimble as possible in our outreach. We're well positioned to address emerging issues, but must increase our communications capacity to ensure we reach everyone who needs our resources. With additional support, CLASP could better target high-risk, marginalized populations. While different constituencies largely share the same problems, there's no one-size-fits-all solution to poverty. By increasing and more closely tailoring our outreach, we could create better outcomes for more people in low-income communities. And because we also work at the macro level, when we affect change, the ripples are significant.